I'm with Alex Yampolskiy, who's the CEO and founder of Security Scorecard. Many of you know him. I've known Alex for, I think, 15, 16 years. You were in our New York chapter when we first started that chapter. I think you were a CISO at Gilt Groupe. Is that right?
That's right. I first started joining the CISO Exec Network breakfast breakfasts when I was a chief security officer at Gilt Groupe. So I wanted to meet more of my CISO peers, and I always thought that you guys had really good, thoughtful events where you could learn latest market trends and learn what other folks in the market are doing.
Yeah, yeah. So that's just amazing to think about how long we've known each other. And I've watched your success, and I brag about it all the time. I'm like, oh, I know Alex. I know him. So that's fantastic. And I think we've both done a great job. I think we give back in this industry is what we've done. So let me ask you this. What really inspired you to build a company, to go fill a gap somewhere? What sparked that when you started this? And how many years ago was it?
So I started Security Scorecard in 2014. So it's been
Oh,
about 10 and a half years.
yep.
What inspired me is when I was a chief security officer at Gilt, uh, I had all kinds of tools at my disposal: vulnerability scanners, threat intelligence feeds, firewalls, endpoint protection. I had no idea if they were making me any safer or not. I had zero KPIs that I could use to report to the board how I'm doing. Is the money that I spent actually making me safer? And as I started also using the cloud providers, the different third parties that my marketing team, my finance team would sign up for, I really felt completely in the dark because I had no idea if those third parties would get hacked one day and my information would be stolen. And this fear came to life one day when we signed up for a vendor to help mitigate e-commerce fraud. And as we started integrating with the systems of that provider, we discovered unencrypted credit card data in the systems of that company. And that
Yikes.
to me was a big wake-up call where I realized I could lose my job due to circumstances outside of my control.
Right. Yeah.
2014, I said there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a way to measure and quantify risk. There has to be a KPI that you can use to measure yourself, to measure your suppliers, to measure your partners. And that led us to start innovating and thinking about how do you build a technology like that, and raising venture capital at the end of December 2023, which permitted me to quit my job as a
Yeah.
CEO and just go do it full time.
Wow. Yeah, so I guess you leaned a little bit on, what we talked about earlier is your PhD internship at Microsoft where you thought, yeah, these KPIs, these indicators of, effective configuration, and you just took it to the next level where it's, well, what's the security configuration? I think this is so important to people, the general hygiene of their security program. How do I know the efficacy of all these security products I have? So I think what you're doing is a really valuable thing. Um, I always ask this because there's, I don't know, 4,700 plus products in this space. You know it. It's crazy. It's insane. How do you distinguish your solution? What's unique about it, right?
Well, it's easy. We talk about the 4S. Security Scorecard is the best in the world because of our differentiators. Number one, we source our own data.
Ah,
We collect all of the data ourselves over the past 10 years. That gives you unparalleled accuracy. It gives you break-in 0 days and vulnerabilities that we discover faster than anyone else. So sourcing our own data is number one. Number two, speed. The time to refute an issue, if you disagree or you want to provide additional commentary on a score, it's less than a couple of hours. For other companies, it takes days to update the scores.
ah,
The time it takes us to surface latest break-in vulnerabilities is minutes. For others, again, it could be days. So number one, we source our data. Number two, speed. Scale is the third one. We
mhm.
rate over 12.5 million companies worldwide. For any one of those companies, we have 10 years of history, unparalleled scale. And if a company is not on a data set, it gets added automatically within 10 minutes. And then the final differentiator is we're not just a rating, we're a solution.
Mm.
We don't just give you a rating, but we give you a whole platform of modules to send a questionnaire, to pull inside out information, to do cyber risk quantification. We also provide services to help build your entire third party risk program for you. So that really is what makes us unique: the
Yeah.
source, the speed, the scale, and the solution, not just a rating.
Yeah, that's well thought through. And I think you need to be different, right? Again, you have to distinguish yourself, which is kind of my third question is like, how do you break through the noise when there are almost 5,000 vendors in the space, right? What do you do?
Well, I think as a provider of technology, the way that you have to break through noise, look, number one is trust. You have
Ah,
to build a trust in a community.
right.
Um, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of fake marketing
Yeah,
in the space. Everybody uses the same terminology. I have a better AI machine learning algorithm that reduces the false positive rates. But then you try the solution, and most of the time it doesn't work.
all right.
You have so many early stage startups which are eager to get customers. So it makes the job of a CISO very difficult because you don't have time in a day to go talk to thousands of startups. So trust is very important. I think
Mm,
customer references are very important. Talk to your peers, talk to other CISOs who may be using that solution. Ask
right.
them, did they deliver what they said they would? When
Yeah,
things do not go well, when something malfunctions or when you need to customize a solution, how does a vendor react? Do they see it as a strategic partnership? Because the best relationship is not you charge money from somebody, they pay you and you disappear. It's a partnership. You're there to help transform and make lives better for your customers, security practitioners. You're there to help lead them on a transformation, to help make the job easier.
yeah,
And so trust is very important. Customer references is very important. And I would recommend that because when you have thousands and thousands of vendors, I think there's over 9,000 plus security startups. If you take one pitch per day, it's going to
yep,
take you 25 to 26 years to hear a single pitch,
right.
more time than any of us have. It all goes back to reputation, trust, who is behind the company, who are the
Yeah,
investors, who are the advisors. That's usually what I looked at when I
yeah.
chose. And by the way, I really do love a quote by Jim Routh, who is a terrific
Oh, I love Jim.
thought leader. He always said, if you want to mitigate risk, you have to take risk. There was a really good book by Nissim Taleb, The Black Swan, and he introduced the concept of a barbell strategy in his book
Hmm.
for financial investing. And he said, distribute the risk to two extremes. You invest 85 to 90% of your assets in extremely safe instruments, and you place all the remainder in highly speculative bets. The
Mm,
sure things will create a floor for performance, limiting your downside risk, and the wild swings expose you to potentially life-changing gains. So if you
right.
think about CISOs, you want to put 85 to 90% of your bets on proven technologies, famous vendors, proven technologies, but you're never going to mitigate risk if you only do that. You want to allocate 10 to 15% of your bets on newer up and comers that could be given to you something that you don't have. So
Right.
85, 90% sure bets, 10 to 15% on new technologies that you want to just test and experiment with. And that's how you try to mitigate risk by taking risk on some early stage solutions.
And I love that concept, right? And we have members in the network who'll do that, right? We know the ones that will, hey, look, I'm going to go out on a limb, but just for a small part of my network, I'm going to go with this startup. I'm going to help them build their solution and test it in my environment because I believe in it. But that's a risk, right? But you said the upside could be, wow, it really does what it said it was supposed to do, and I helped build it. So that's a great strategy. Yeah, and I think that is the way to cut through the noise, is what you said. Trust, prove that your product delivers. That's the number one way to break through the noise is we actually deliver what we promise. So without naming names, because customers don't like to be named, but is there a case study, maybe recently or in the history of the company where you can say this was a great example of our solution solving a problem, lowering risk for a client? I know it happens every day. Is there one that stands out in your head recently or over the last 10 years?
Sure. Well, we have over 3,000 customers who use Security Scorecard to rate their suppliers, to report
Mhm.
to the board, to make insurance underwriting decisions. So 9 of the top 10 banks, top insurance companies, top pharmaceuticals use us to make safer, smarter decisions. And we have a lot of happy customers. For example, we're privileged to have a relationship with Mignona, who is a chief security officer at NetApp. And we have a trusted relationship and worked with her closely over several companies that she's been at.
Mm-hmm.
And they use on Security Scorecard to see what the hacker sees about the company before the hackers see it, right? So you want to understand how your attack surface looks like so that you can patch up your attack surface and make it harder for somebody to get in from the outside. So we're privileged to work with NetApp, fantastic company, fantastic leadership, to help mitigate the first-party risk and also to dig into the third-party risk.
Yeah.
We're privileged to be working, for example, with Cleveland Clinic. It's a multi-specialty academic medical center, and we're collaborating with Cleveland Clinic, where they're using Security Scorecard scores as part of the diligence for the third parties. So you have thousands of third parties you could be doing business with. You want to understand who's been diligent with protecting your information, and you have to be HIPAA compliant as a healthcare institution. So they're using our technology and integrating it into ServiceNow to help make safer, smarter decisions and really hold people accountable.
It's really interesting to see how pressure from regulators for third-party risk has risen so high. I mean, so many of our members, when we ask them in the third party, what are the major concerns? Third-party risk is always in the top three things that they're concerned about. Matter of fact, we did a study earlier this year and one last year that I'll share with you outside of this meeting. I think you won't be surprised. I think you'll say this is what we hear from our customers all the time. So I think those are interesting case studies. You knew it was going to come up, but AI, everybody's asking about AI. Is it, is it in your product? Yeah. Is it, is it bringing concerns to the space of third-party vendor risk management, or will it be the thing that makes third-party risk management even easier? So what's your take on AI and what's your involvement with it now?
I think just like every company is now an internet company, or a lot of companies are software as a service companies. I think as we look into the future, every company is going to be an AI company. So it's not going to be, it's just going to be weaved into how we do business. So we've used artificial intelligence and machine learning ever since we started the company in 2014. We've collected data on the breaches worldwide for the past 10 years, and then we calibrate and backtest what type of signals map to likelihood of a company to have a data breach.
Oh, interesting.
So we've shown that companies with a bad score are more likely to suffer a data breach. Then, when the large language models appeared, we actually were the first security rating company to layer generative AI on top of a data set, so you can ask a question and say, hey, what are the threats in Saudi Arabia? How is the energy sector doing in Nebraska against the energy sector in Washington, D.C., for example? So we layered this generative AI, and we're one of the companies who are collaborating with Microsoft in the development of their Copilot. So we're one of the companies who is collaborating, sharing data for the Microsoft Copilot, where they're leading the charge on generative AI, where you can have a co-pilot for the SOC team and ask questions and get better insights. So we really embedded it into how we operate within the company for the past 10 years.
Yeah, interesting. And I think that's a smart use of it, right? So you guys jumped on that early. That makes a lot of sense to me. It's become such a buzzword, and I worry that so many security companies just sprinkle it in and say that it's, they don't prove that they're using it. Well, we're doing some AI. Okay, well, you just explained why it's valuable to you and how you actually use it. We always ask our vendors who come and speak at the roundtables, what is it that you're doing to sort of give back in the industry? I don't necessarily mean in a charitable way, but sort of, you charge a fee for your product, as you should. You spend a lot of effort building it, but are there things you do that are building up this industry that you started in as a CISO? Are there things that you think maybe it is the charitable side of things? I don't know, but what are you doing in that space of sort of giving back to the industry?
So look, first of all, any company in the world can claim their profile for free according to a user agreement. And get access to the scorecard so that they can figure out how to protect themselves from the bad guys.
Right. Do your own scan of your own self.
So do your own scan. So we don't charge for it. We allow companies to have access to this intelligence. Smart. Secondly, we've collaborated with a number of ISAC organizations, information sharing associations, where we're providing a data, for example, to retail association, aviation, ISAC, We've had a fantastic relationship with the Health ISAC, which has terrific leadership with Errol Weiss and other folks, where we given the intelligence for healthcare organizations to help protect themselves. And then we've launched a number of years ago, 5 years ago, we've launched Project Asher, which provides complementary access to Security Scorecard platform to nonprofit organizations, so that nonprofit 501c3, 4 or 5 organizations, or organizations that are focused on human rights, social justice, democracy can really protect themselves and become safer.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great thing. And that is the way to do it, I think, is, you believe in your product, you built it for a reason. Hey, if you want to use it, you can, and it makes sense to do that, right, for individuals. So I appreciate that. And I think a lot of people appreciate that. Well, we're coming up to our last question, and this is the fun one for me is, you built this, you took the risk, you went out, you raised capital, you started a company. It's a huge risk when you do that. What advice would you give to an aspiring cybersecurity startup today? Many of them. You're probably involved in investing in a few. You've introduced me to a
I'm an
couple.
investor into over 20, 25 startups
Yeah.
myself as an angel investor.
Yeah. So talk to me about, if you were advising and you do, what's the advice you would give to these startups in a crowded space?
You have to deeply understand the pain point, the job to be done by your customer. There's a really terrific book. I highly recommend it, by the way. The book is called The Secret Lives of Customers, The
Oh,
Secret
wow.
Lives of Customers.
Okay.
And that book talks about a fictional coffee chain, which is about to go public, but the profits are plummeting. And so they bring in this advisor to help investigate why the profits plummeting. And he says, why do you hire a cup of coffee? That's the question he asks. Why do you hire a cup of coffee? And it's not just to quench the thirst. You hire a cup of coffee for different reasons. You might have a chess get together where you meet in the local chess players for coffee at Friday and 5 o'clock and play chess in a local Starbucks. Or you might be en route to an early morning workout and you want to get a caffeine jolt. Or you might be a student whose apartment is too small and you don't want to sit in a library. You want to feel like the people around you and you're sitting in a coffee shop with your headphones and working on your dissertation. So you hire a cup of coffee for different reasons. So then, for example, if you're a student who is looking for a place to work on your dissertation, then you are not competing with other coffee chains. You're competing, for example, with a hotel lobby, or you're competing with a library. But so you compete with different businesses. So you need to put yourself into the shoes of a customer. Customers hire us to get the job done. And so you need to change the mantra of like, hey, how do I build the best product? What are the features that I put into the product? But how do I alleviate and solve the pain and bring value to my customers? What is a CISO looking to do? He or she might be looking to get a promotion and look good to the CIO, or he or she might be looking to automate the manual processes for third-party risk management where you keep sending a questionnaire after questionnaire. And so my number one advice, really deeply understand the pain point for your customer. Ask many questions, 5 whys, and go deep. That's kind of advice number one, right? And advice number two, advice number two is enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride, because there were so many moments as we scaled Security Scorecard where it felt like a real low. It's never like a linear line. There were so many moments where I told to myself, this is really bad. And then, you wake up, you re-energize your next day. And what's interesting is a lot of those low moments led to the highest moments when you iterate and adjust. So enjoy the ride. There'll be highs, there'll be lows. Don't let the highs get you too high and the lows get you too low. Just keep persevering. Perseverance and listening to customers is probably the most important 2 pieces of advice that I would give.
That's great advice. I love that. Thank you so much. I know that when some startups see this video, they're going to be taking lots of notes. And again, you're an advisor to 2025 companies where you're an angel investor, and I think that's important. This has been a great interview. Thank you so much, Alex. I enjoy and appreciate our relationship. I've loved watching you grow, watch this company explode. It's so great. And again, I brag. I was like, he was a member of our network. He used to come to the roundtable.
Thank you, by the way, for the service that you do to the community, because you provide a venue, an opportunity for CISOs to get together, to learn from their peers, to be exposed to the latest innovation and technology it's a very valuable service. It makes the community stronger. If you are fighting against the hackers by yourself, then you're alone. If you're fighting against the hackers together by sharing expertise, then they gotta go break into all of our companies to succeed. And you're providing a venue for us to get stronger and more cohesive together as a community.
Yep. Well, that was our mantra from the start and it continues to be. So again, thank you for your generous time.